sexual assaults that we have seen involve alcohol. And many people think that, well, I was drunk and so it's my fault because I was drinking or I was high or whatever. I may not have wanted it to happen, but I put myself in that position, therefore it's my fault. Whereas they're not always aware of the fact that when there is alcohol and drugs involved and a person is intoxicated or is high, or that you can't consent. There is no consent at that point, and therefore it is a sexual assault against that person.
Sexual assault is any direct violation of one's sexual rights and freedoms. And consent is a mutual, sober, honest approval or agreement between both parties.
My frosh week last year, apparently someone was raped in my residence, and we were just told, lock your doors because people are coming in and out because it's frosh week, and we weren't told exactly what happened. And it was only second semester that a rumor started going around saying oh yeah, someone was apparently raped in your res during frosh week. And I mean, that's really disconcerting to not be completely told why. I mean, because that's a huge security threat. And yeah, locking your doors is good because sure, people come in and steal your stuff, but when you're saying people are stealing your stuff as a mask for someone being sexually assaulted, I mean, that's just not okay. And the fact that happens, I feel, so often on campus, that there's not honest discussion about what actually happens is really scary.
Well, violence can be described as physical, mental, sexual assault. These are all defined, and I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to stay within what people usually think violence is, which is physical harm. And I feel mental, coercion and things like that, really impact women and everybody in general. But the intersectionalities also have a big impact, and we need to look at what violence is in a broader sense.
I think the most important aspects of sexual violence on our campus or the most important things that we're trying to get out there is not having these different elements normalized. I just know in so many conversations, if I mention, and this example keeps coming up, but getting your ass grabbed at the bar, so many women don't consider that to be sexual assault. But if I was in a public setting like the library and somebody grabbed my behind, I don't think anybody would dispute that was a form of sexual assault. So because our campus environment is one with a lot of alcohol, and we're so often in situations like being out at the bar, I guess I just don't want things to go under the radar anymore, and for people to just open their eyes to the more subtle and potentially less detrimental ways that the sexual violence manifests, but to acknowledge that those experiences are not invalidated.
There has to be education, not just for the survivors of violence or the potential victims. When we look at women, we always look at educating women about what could possibly occur for sexual assault, how to deal with it. We hear about the SANE nurses, we hear about the counselors we can go speak to. I think there has to be more emphasis on the preventative matters. I know myself at a campus, going to a university here at St. FX, I feel it's really problematic that women, and me as a woman, is more targeted. And, every time I go to the doctors, they always ask me about these things, how are you doing? Have you had any of these episodes? Do you need a counselor to talk to? And I'm happy that those sources are there and those resources have to be there. However, I wonder if the same question is being asked to a man who has gone to the counseling center. Have you gone through training? Do you know what sexual assault is? Do you know what consent is? And I really feel like it's not a double-edged sword there. It's really, so I think it really comes from education and preventative education.
So getting men involved in this discussion is definitely going to be a challenge, but we're hoping to start small, start with our friends. I mean, every youth leader, we all have guy friends, talking to them, getting them to talk to their friends, but hopefully getting some service learning education students, to some males to lead some male focus groups. Thought that maybe men would be more comfortable talking about these things in a setting without women around.
The conversation of violence, of say like our female friends being, either, scared in situations or like being alone in the public, that's just something we don't consider. Like, we're never in a position, I've never been in a position where I'm at the pub and I leave and I'm on my own and I feel scared or threatened. That's never been an issue. I've never walked home and felt threatened. I've never, just never been in that position where I feel scared that my safety might be in jeopardy.
It's nice to reach out to women who have been victims or who have been affected. However, it's also nice, it's also important to target those men who are the core of the issue. And in that perspective as well, it will also be nice to give women that notion, or to give women that impression that a man's mentality is changing by having a number of men in this issue who are fighting for women's rights, which is nice to see because they are the core of the issue.
When we talk to guys, we always try to reinforce with them that although 90% of perpetrators of sexual assault are male, not 90% of males are perpetrators. We know that the majority of guys out there are really good guys who would never do this and would never want to hurt a woman or another person at all. And when they understand that, then they do better. It's like when you know better, you do better. And we just want to encourage them then, to take that information and stand together and say, raise the bar a little bit and say, yeah, we are good guys out there and we need to promote this information and get it out there to all guys for them to understand what sexual assault is and to make sure that, we decrease the amount of assaults that are happening out there by, like I say, standing together and men and women together and taking this information and moving forward with it.
I think programs like the Resisting Violence Project are incredibly important, especially in rural communities where we are, because it gives girls and women an opportunity to have a voice and take on a leadership role that otherwise wouldn't be there. Living rurally, you don't have many options to express yourself and to become a leader just because lack of resources and money in rural areas. So having something like this that gives women from the age of 13, 14, all the way up to university students an opportunity to express themselves and become more confident in who they are is incredibly important. And the issues that are discussed within these groups are also ones that are incredibly important for communities. So I think for all those reasons, it's incredibly important to have these sort of leadership avenues for girls to have, which otherwise may not be there.